You know that feeling when you're watching a movie and a character whispers something and it feels like they're right there in the room with you? So real, so intimate. Well, that's not an accident. Over the last century, cinema has become this incredibly powerful machine. And it's not just for telling stories, it's for engineering, packaging, and actually selling the feeling of human presence itself. So the big question is, how on earth did movies learn to do that? Right, this is the heart of what we're going to explore. How did an industrial art form, a business, learn to manufacture and then market one of our most private experiences? The answer, it turns out, is a really fascinating story about technology, control, and of course, desire. So here's our roadmap. We're going to trace this whole evolution through 6 really crucial shifts. We'll start with the arrival of sound, then move to the strange effects of censorship. After that, we'll look at the industrialization of color, how Hitchcock made us all aware of our own looking, the move to widescreen as a defense mechanism, and finally, the rating system as a new kind of marketplace. Okay, so first up, sound. The arrival of synchronized sound was nothing short of a technological earthquake. I mean, it didn't just add a new layer to film, it completely rewired the entire relationship between the movie and the audience. Now, to really get this, we need to introduce a key concept for today, the Phantomoperand. It sounds complicated, but just think of it as this invisible pressure, a force that's always pushing cinema to find the most efficient way to package up human experience, making it standardized, easy to sell, and something you can repeat over and over again. So look at how this changed acting. In the silent era, actors had to be big, right? They used their whole body, these grand, symbolic gestures to get meaning across. But the moment sound comes in, the focus snaps right to the voice. A whisper, a tremor, a little crack in the voice, these suddenly became the ultimate signs of authenticity. You weren't just watching anymore, you were eavesdropping. And this, of course, created this powerful feedback loop. You get the new tech, sound, which creates a new artistic standard, this idea of realism. And that standard, in turn, creates a brand new product for the industry to sell, the feeling of closeness, which gets marketed as truth. And just like that, the Phantomoperand kicks into high gear. Now, as cinema got better and better at being this mass intimacy machine, you can bet that regulation was coming. But here's the twist. The production code of the 1930s, well, it didn't just crush desire. In a weird way, it actually forced it to get a whole lot smarter. This is the central paradox, and it's brilliant. By banning all the explicit stuff, the code forced filmmakers to invent a completely new, sophisticated language. You couldn't show desire, so you had to master the art of implication. You couldn't show the act, so you perfected innuendo. And this is the key takeaway. The audience's job completely changed. You weren't just a passive consumer anymore, no. Now you had to be a detective, decoding every glance, every closed door, every line of witty dialogue. Just think about the famous Lubitsch touch, where all the most important action happens just off screen and you, the viewer, get the thrill of figuring it all out. All right, next up. If sound industrialized intimacy, then the arrival of widespread color basically industrialized a film's entire visual surface. And this was never just about making things look prettier. It was about control. All of a sudden, the look of a film became this governable, industrial process. Skin tones, makeup, costumes, sets. Everything was calibrated to fit a very specific, controlled color palette. And this wasn't neutral at all. It actively created and enforced certain beauty standards, rewarding what the technology considered photogenic and, of course, repeatable. This was another huge shift in thinking. Cinema wasn't just capturing the colors of the real world anymore. Not at all. It was creating its own perfected, idealized version, what we now think of as cinematic color. Watching a movie became less like looking out a window and more like touring a showroom where every single surface was perfectly coordinated and ready for consumption. Which brings us to the absolute master of control, Alfred Hitchcock. His real genius wasn't just in creating suspense, it was in making the very act of looking, of watching, the main subject of his films. He basically turned the camera back on the audience. I mean, Rear Window is the perfect blueprint for this. Jimmy Stewart, stuck in his chair, that's us, in the movie theater. The windows across the courtyard, those are his, and our, movie screens. But here's the most important part. The film gives him, and us, a moral alibi. We're not just creepy peeping toms, no, we're solving a crime. It's this masterful trick that makes our voyeurism feel virtuous and totally okay. You can even think about Hitchcock's famous suspense as a kind of governance. It's really a technique for managing our emotions and our attention. He's telling our bodies exactly when to tense up and when to relax. He's not just telling a story, he's literally directing our physical responses from his director's chair. So, in the middle of the 20th century, a new threat pops up: television. And cinema's response was pretty simple: go big or go home. Widescreen wasn't just some artistic choice, it was an industrial defense strategy. The battle lines were drawn pretty clearly around sensory impact. Television gave you convenience on a small screen in your own home, so cinema had to offer something more. It had to offer a sensory surplus, a massive immersive spectacle that you just couldn't get from that little box in your living room. So what was the consequence of all this? Well, the image itself became the main event. Production value, gloss, sheer scale, those were the new selling points. And it also meant that the human body, now blown up on this giant screen, was subjected to even stricter control and aesthetic policing. And that brings us to our final big transformation. In the late 1960s, the old system of just banning things collapsed, and what replaced it was a brand new system of classification, the movie rating system. This was a really fundamental change in philosophy. You see, we went from a single centralized code that told filmmakers what they couldn't do to a system of categories that basically told audiences what kind of product they were about to buy. So, and this is so important, this didn't really create freedom so much as it created a new kind of marketplace. Morality and transgression were literally converted into product categories: G, PG, R, NC-17. The Phantomoperand didn't have to fight the code anymore. Now it could just efficiently package and sell different levels of desire to different target audiences. Which, of course, leaves us with one last big question. We've seen how sound, censorship, color, and ratings created this whole system for packaging the human experience. But those were the rules for the old screens, for the movie theater. What are the new rules of the Phantomoperand on the phones, the laptops, and the endless feeds that we're looking at every single day?